Okay, this is Rick's reloading bench. This is the what I call a compact loading bench area. I constructed this myself. The table is 5 feet wide by 3 feet deep. I've got a couple of metal cabinets on top, and underneath I've got places for various things to be stored. So I got my RCBS rock chucker press. Behind that I've got an RCBS case trimmer, and then an RCBS case preparation center, my homemade lube, Hornady powder dispenser, and then I have all these drawers for keeping my dirty and clean brass, as well as my dies, scale, various tools, primers, bullets, not all of which are here, but quite a few of the common ones. And it's a compact unit. It doesn't take up much space, and you can build these real easy, or you can buy tables that are pre-made, and then make them work to what you want them to do. So it's not really that difficult. By the way, I've got self-adjusting feet on each leg, so that I can go ahead and make sure that the workbench is totally level. And you can accomplish a lot in a small space such as this. I wouldn't suggest going any smaller than this unless you're extremely cramped for room, but this is just one method that shows you that you can get a lot of stuff accomplished in a relatively small space if you just take the time to plan it out efficiently and figure out how you're going to go about doing your reloading, so that you're not stepping over all the equipment when you're using it. And by the way, I'd like to mention that this bag that you see right here, it may be called a range bag for some people, but this is what I take to the range all of the time. And it's got all of my tools that I would ever need, as well as cleaning gear for all of the guns that I shoot. And that way, when I go to the range, I'm set to tackle any kind of a repair. Usually other people wind up borrowing the stuff, but that's also that's good. So anyway, this is an example of a compact reloading bench that doesn't take up much space. It's 5 feet by 3 feet. I've got it set up at a height so that when I'm standing over it, it's comfortable to work at. I can also sit on a chair that is raised up high enough that enables me to sit down and work in that manner. And this is my own little sanctuary. That's my safe right there, where all the firearms are kept. And I just find this to be an ideal workplace. Just make sure you have enough light and decent ventilation, and you're good to go. So anyway, this is a compact reloading bench, and next what we'll look at is Dean's bench, which is more of a full-sized layout where you actually have all the room that you want as far as mounting stuff and working on stuff. So we'll end this one for here. Okay, we completed the short video on Rick's reloading bench. Now we're at Dean's reloading bench, and we're going to have Dean take over and kind of show everything that he's got, and to show you how having a much larger space like Dean has is really desirable. I just didn't have the room in my garage for it, but Dean's got the room and he took full advantage of it, which is outstanding. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Dean.
Thanks, Rick. Welcome. This is my bench setup. Anyways, in a previous video I did when I first got the equipment and started installing it, and so now it's kind of evolved into a working bench now. So I'll kind of start from left to right with my bench. First of all, put everything in a storage container. As you can see on top, I do wet tumbling for my brass. I found it to be really good and more effective just keeping brass clean. So I went and invested into a Franklin Arsenal tumbler. Excellent. I advise it. On top of that, I've got all my stuff here, brass, primers, and bullets. I put it in a sorting tray. This came from IKEA. So kind of works out perfect. You have your brass primers, pull it out as you need it. So that works for me. These are actually old Chinese war cabinets that I refinished. So I keep all my brass in here and then reloading supplies. Now, starting from left to right, how I set this up is I wanted one section, because my bench is 2 by 8 feet, so it gave me plenty of working room to kind of create 2 sections of the bench. Obviously the middle is for the bench press, and that kind of puts me on both sides, which is nice, because on this side it's all about powder and dispensing. So I've got the Hornady powder dispenser that I got. This works really well for all my 223 brass and my 9mm. When I go shooting 308 or 6.5, I go over to my Hornady scale over here in dispenser. Reason being, I can set in the exact amount, so when I'm shooting 6.5, like I said, or 308, I can get exact loads. This is a little bit of a slower process, but much more accurate. This is just a little check scale, because it is always a good idea to check the weights between both. I never rely on one, and I never trust one. I always have a backup. So I always kind of just double check my work as I do powder. So I set this up as kind of a whole powder station. So once I get to this point here, I can kind of do everything here. Now the other side of my bench I set up really for case preparation. So on this side I've got everything to measure, my deburring, and I got a vise. As some of you recognize, this is the Hornady trimmer. So I just put this into a vise. A vise at Harbor Freight. I painted it to match. It was blue. Same with that stand over there. That's an RCBS stand on a Hornady powder dispenser. I just painted it red to match. So just if you wondered, because the Hornady ones are much smaller, the RCBS makes a really good stand, and it works with that. Coming back over here, I've got my trimmer. I've got all my dies. I don't keep them in the case. I've actually designed little bents for each one of my dies and marked them for my 6.5, my 9, my 2.3. So 223, excuse me. So I've set this up for all of my dies, tools, and equipment to keep it sorted, and it's a little bit quicker to get to those tools. I've got my sonic cleaner. Now I do have the wet tumbling over there, but I use a sonic cleaner for my parts, for some of my better brass. I just don't want it. I don't want it tumbled. I'll use a sonic cleaner. So that's worked out really well for me. But in essence, like I said, I created this is all of my case prep for measuring, for you can see my little Franklin Arsenal. This is one of the best tools. Put my primers in, obviously. This has been so nice. I've tried other handheld primers, primer inserters, whatever you want to call them, and this one's turned out to be really good, this Franklin Arsenal. So this side of my bench is really designed for all case prep, measuring. So once I'm done here and I prime everything, then I move over to the left side of my bench for powders, and then moving to the center here. So I've kind of designed it that way. Obviously the board I put on the back with all the tools that you'll need for reloading. As I said, I like to have the space. I can kind of spread out And I can work on different rifles and pistols that I want on this side too. So this side stays clean and away from any electronics, also because it can affect the scales. You don't want to put a phone or anything odd next to it, because I've actually seen it throw the scale off, which is interesting. Now, one caveat, one of the guys I shoot with, Lou, terrific guy, super smart. I think he's forgotten more than I've ever learned. And so, besides Rick, who really taught me a lot in this, I asked him about storing my black powder, about my smokeless powder, excuse me. He brought up a very good idea. I went down to, I keep wanting to call it Kmart, but it's Walmart. That's telling you my age. Went down to Walmart, and I actually picked up a cooler for $12, and I store all my powders in here. And the reason being is most of the time your powder is going to be in your garage, so it's going to be susceptible to heat, cold, moisture, etc. With the cooler, it keeps the moisture out. In the past, I've thrown those little bags that you get, the silica bags, just to keep any moisture down. But what that does is it keeps the temperature on the powders from fluctuating, because it's inside of a cooler, it's insulated. So you can pick up a cheap cooler, store your powders in there, because 90% of the time it's going to be in your garage, and it keeps the temperature inside. It doesn't dip, doesn't go too high or too low. It's inside of a cooler. So for storage solutions, this is something I learned. It was inexpensive, and it keeps my powders in one spot. I obviously got it in red. Not really to match, but it's just that I know that there's powder there. So if there was ever a house fire and emergency and I had to let the fire department know, I could let them know it's in a red cooler. So it's easy to spot. So that's why that was stored in there. And one last thing, I actually got it from the art store. I picked up one of these. What's been great about this, it has the light, it's the magnifier. Now, besides getting blind with age, just getting older, what's nice about this is I can obviously look at parts. I can check cases. So if I have any question about a case, or I'm going through some of them, I want to double check to make sure the case is okay. There's no splitting in the case. Just to take a look, this has turned out to be invaluable. Half the time, I use it for that, and the other half, it's for parts that I just can't see, or even reading some of the instruction manuals that come with stuff. I've literally had to use that. So these little lights, you get them at the art stores, they run about $15, $20, and they'll mount right on the wall. So with my bench, obviously, I've got my little setup here with my Lapoa brass and my other brass, and it's always, I kind of put it here, so it tells me that it has to be deprimed, and then after that goes into this area for all of the case prep.
So you've got it laid out so that it's pretty much driven by the tasks that you do.
Yes. So it's kind of, I thought in mind, when I'm sitting here, I can either go right or go left, because I'll end up sitting in the middle playing music, So I've kind of sectioned it off into two sections. I know with your bench, Rick, it's a little bit more compact, and it's highly organized, and it's a nice setup. But here I could spread out a little bit. And, I just put a shelf up on top for my other stuff.
What about those auxiliary lights?
These little auxiliary lights, I've got to put some new batteries in them because they're so fantastic. I wore them out. So these little lights, I got them for $10 at the hardware store. They're the little, you can click them just to add a little bit extra light at the bench. Because the more light, the better. You can see, and so I added those little drop lights in there, and just everything stored underneath. So really, in essence, that's my whole setup. It's enough to reload. It's enough to work on my guns. And hopefully, things that I've learned from Lou and Rick and other people, I've kind of incorporated into here. And let me see, I think I was playing with it. Also, got my hammer. When I make those mistakes, damn it, and I have to pull bullets apart.
Well, sometimes it's not a mistake, Dean. As we found out, when you're taking a brand new bullet that you've never seeded the die, to set your seeder die with, you're going to wind up in a case sometimes where you seed it too deep, and so that's when you need to have that puller, that impact hammer out, so you can retrieve the bullet. And save the powder. You lose a primer. Well, no, you're still going to be using it. So
if you can reuse a casing, so you can actually salvage, because it's not a cheap sport. So if you can salvage what you can, it's great. And also this reminds me, when we talked in one of the videos about the beginners for reloaders, you know, with all the equipment and everything, that's why I talked about you're going to need other things. You know, I've got the trimmer. There's case cleaners. There's tools like this. So when you see those boxes, it's, you know, a Hornady or RCBS or Dillon or Lee. There's many wonderful brands. You know, you think, oh, $200-300, I'll get going. I'd say it's about $600 in to really get yourself going. Dies, hammers, little extra tools and things like that that you're going to need. Other investments like that.
And you got your loading trays there on your wall?
Yeah, put up my loading trays. These are already set for my dies, so everything kind of fits in. You know, I've got my scale to measure some of the brass on that side, makes it quick and easy. Then up here I've got some of the tools, my comparator, trickler, just the small stuff, and also my calipers to measure. So that's all kind of concentrated in one area. You know, generally makes sense. It's probably not as organized as I want right now, but this little area kind of put that, so it all kind of fits. So,
and one nice thing about Dean's bench is that on the right side here, see, he can do all of his reloading on the left side, and when he's all done, he's got a work area over here where he can actually clean his guns, set them up there, tear them apart, clean them, and I don't have the luxury of that on my compact reloading bench. I have to set up a separate table and lay my guns out on there and clean them up that way. But he's got everything here all set up so he can clean his guns or work on them.
Yeah. As we just put a new piece on my AR, we were working on, you know, and little things like this. I bought this little light. I can put it in as I reload. I can kind of see in there as I'm working to check powder.
Nice.
Because even though I go through all of this, safety is the number one thing that you really want to be aware of. Double charges is what I'm concerned about. So when I'm loading 9mm, for me, before I load the bullet in, when I'm in the I can just give it a secondary look. Obviously, when I load, I give it a look. When I'm in here, I got enough light. If I missed something, it just gives me peace of mind. Mm-hmm. So as I load it, I can look for double charges on the 9mm.
Quality control.
Yeah, you know, and so the more light, the better. Definitely have a speaker for music. As I always call it, it's kind of your zen time in the garage. Put some music on, ignore everybody else, and do your thing you like. So, you know, and my single stage press, that works for everything. So, you know, this is a basic setup. I know some other benches have progressives and a lot of other wonderful tools, but you know, this does it for me.
Yeah. So for starting out and reloading, you can tailor your bench based on the amount of space that you have to use. And you can either make it a compact one like myself, or you can go all out and have a nice big long one like this where you can do multiple tasks on it. The bottom line is what do you plan to use it for, and what are your expectations, and having in mind where all of the equipment goes. I mean, it's one thing to build a bench, but now you've got all your equipment, and how do you place it? Well, you have to think about how you're going to reload in the stages, and hopefully from seeing my video and this video on Dean's, he showed you how he's got all of his equipment laid out and how it's all organized and very convenient. It's not messy, and it gives him the least amount of problems when he's doing his reloading. So, do you have anything else, Dean?
No, just, you know, you can do reloading on any size. Lou brought up, you can buy an old desk. If you're in an apartment or a condo and you want to reload, it's not a problem. You probably have to just keep it a little cleaner, but at the end of it, you could get an old desk and set up a bench press, you know,
Sure.
go down to Goodwill.
Sure.
You can find an old desk. Just put this can be mounted to it.
Mm-hmm.
All the tools can be on there and inside the drawers. I've seen people do it. So they work on just a couple feet of space. If you're good with that, there's probably a little more moving around bringing tools out, but you can go from this full size Rick's, which is kind of the next size down, to even an old desk if you're in an apartment or condo.
Right.
Set your stuff up, get yourself maybe a smaller cooler. I have some 8-pounders in there, that's why I needed a bigger size, but you get small size and really compact it.
Yeah.
You know? So we talked about, you know, the whole purpose of this is hopefully we're getting people excited to reload, because with the laws that are coming, the changes that are happening, this gives me control, gives Rick control, and gives you control. on the ammo that you make, the amount that you own, and teaches you a lot more about shooting than just firing a gun or playing with the parts. It is imperative, I think, that a lot of people learn to reload, because I think the future you're going to need to know how to. And hopefully this encourages anyone to get into this, because it's fun and it's fascinating. It's not difficult, and it's safe.
And like Dean said, don't worry if you don't have a garage. If you live in an apartment or a condo or whatever, and you don't have an actual garage, do it in one of your rooms. Do it in the room that you sleep in.
Yeah.
You know, just take that school desk and put it in a corner and mount all your stuff on it and go to town.
Yeah, find an old desk at Goodwill or something. Don't you hassle. You want to build one, great, but you can get a pop-up desk. You can get an old desk. You can, even the plastic fold-up ones, you could probably do it on. So I encourage everybody, because I'll tell you right now, once you learn to do it, you get going on it, it's pretty cool. You know, you just, I'm gonna go shooting tomorrow. I'm gonna make some 9mm tonight. Not a problem. I'm gonna knock out about 100, 200 rounds, and I'm good. I've got the control, because if you don't have this, then your state has control on what you're gonna buy and what you're gonna do with it.
And it'll have records on what you're buying and how much.
Yes, because in the future, as you buy it, they do background checks. They know what you have, how much you have, and I'm sure those restrictions, like Australia, are coming down the pike, where they restrict, you can only have ammo for the gun you own and only a certain amount of rounds that you can actually have. So, anyways, I hope it encourages some people.
All right. Well, I guess that kind of wraps this up. So we'll end it here and say that if you've got any questions about reloading equipment or reloading
Comments
benches,
below.
leave us a comment.
Yeah, like and set the little the little thing so you get emails from us.
Yeah,
that'll help keep the channel.
notifications.
Because YouTube loves to pull the stuff down for
Yeah.
various reasons. So if you can do that, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Next year we might be at SHOT Show, which is going on right now. Next year, showing you some great equipment. So, thank you.
All right. Till next time, stay safe,
And shoot
shoot
straight.
straight.